For centuries, the galaxy believed humanity vanished. Star maps listed Earth as abandoned. Empires assumed humans were primitive, insignificant, incapable of interstellar ambition. Ships passed the Sol system, noting its seemingly stagnant technology, and concluded there was no longer a civilization worth monitoring. Scientists wrote papers claiming humanity had never been able to master faster than light travel. Historians dismissed them as a cautionary tale, proof that some species simply did not endure the cosmos. But humanity had never truly disappeared. The disappearance was deliberate. They withdrew, not in defeat, but in strategic patience, retreating to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, to forgotten systems where no empire dared venture. They occupied dead worlds and barren planets, shadowed asteroid belts, and nebulae so dense that sensors could not penetrate them. Here, away from the arrogance and observation of other species, humanity began its greatest work. They sought what none had dared to seek, knowledge older than the stars themselves. These hidden systems contained remnants of civilizations whose histories predated even the oldest stellar clusters. Machines buried in the dust of dead planets, dormant for millions of years, hummed with a technology incomprehensible to modern science. Entire cities of alien design, constructed with materials unknown to contemporary physics, lay intact beneath layers of rock and magnetic shielding. Here were the relics of beings who had observed the birth of galaxies, who had understood matter, energy, and time in ways humans could only dream of. And yet, humans studied them not as conquerors, but as students of the universe itself. They began by unraveling the principles of these ancient technologies. Materials that bent light and gravity simultaneously were replicated using bioengineered compounds. Power systems that harnessed the energy of collapsing neutron stars were adapted for portable use. Propulsion systems, guided by temporal algorithms that accounted for the curvature of space itself, became the foundation of human fleets. Weapons were designed not for wanton destruction, but for surgical control, tools that could immobilize fleets without collateral damage, neutralize entire colonies without harm, and render communication networks inert without causing panic. Every system reflected humanity's philosophy: restraint, precision, and inevitability. The process took decades, centuries, by human reckoning. Entire generations devoted themselves to study, experimentation, and integration. Knowledge was distributed through networks that spanned planets and orbital stations, connected by quantum-linked communication that rendered distance irrelevant. Humans experimented not in haste, but with patience, exploring every possible application, simulating outcomes over centuries of computation, and preparing for a return that would reshape the galaxy. During this period, the galaxy continued to believe humanity irrelevant. Empires expanded unchecked. Fleets traversed star systems with impunity. Colonies grew under the shadow of interstellar councils. Humanity's absence was interpreted as extinction or incompetence. But in reality, humanity was everywhere at once, observing, calculating, integrating, learning. Every political move, every fleet movement, every alliance in the galaxy was noted, analyzed, and cataloged. Humans were not reacting. They were anticipating. And then came the first signs of return. At the edges of known space, anomalies appeared. Fleets halted mid-flight for no discernible reason. Communications dropped suddenly, only to resume as if nothing had happened, but routed through systems impossible for contemporary technology to replicate. Observers scrambled to identify the source. Sensors reported vast, previously undetectable masses of energy and structure moving without propulsion, without heat signatures, without the usual telltale readings of civilization. Some speculated cosmic phenomena. Others whispered of ghosts. Few suspected humanity. In reality, humanity was returning, but not with a roar. Their fleets emerged silently, almost ceremoniously. Massive ships glided through space with a grace that defied known physics, employing propulsion and shielding systems derived from knowledge older than the stars themselves. These vessels were enormous, yet elegant, their surfaces shifting subtly, reflecting the void in ways designed to obscure them from observation. Their movements were deliberate, coordinated across light years, yet imperceptible to even the most advanced sensors. The galaxy, accustomed to displays of power through noise and violence, could barely comprehend what was happening. The first true encounter occurred near a cluster of systems controlled by the Solari Dominion, a militaristic empire renowned for its fleet strength. The Dominion ships, each the size of a small moon and bristling with weapons capable of planetary annihilation, prepared for a display of dominance. Their scanners detected faint readings, unidentifiable masses moving in formation, but these were dismissed initially as sensor errors. When the humans' fleet approached in silence, the Dominion fired. Energy beams, missiles, and plasma volleys streaked toward the invisible targets. Nothing hit. The beams bent, dissipated, or reversed course. Missiles disintegrated before reaching range. Every attempt to engage was neutralized with a precision that defied understanding. Shields projected fields beyond known principles of physics, absorbing energy and rerouting it harmlessly into space. Propulsion systems adjusted mid-flight, anticipating the Dominion's movements. Every calculation made by Dominion commanders was anticipated and countered before it could even be executed. The humans had returned not merely to fight. They had returned to demonstrate control, inevitability, and superiority. From the bridge of the Solaris Prime, Admiral Varen stared at the tactical displays, her hands trembling. Impossible, these ships, they are calculating our actions before we take them. Every prediction fails. Officers around her whispered, fear mingled with awe. The fleets that had once dominated sectors were paralyzed. The Empire's pride, cultivated over centuries, had no defense against patience honed into power. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued as normal. Children laughed in parks. Farmers tilled their fields. Scientists monitored experiments. Markets thrived with the usual hum of activity. Yet beneath this ordinary rhythm, humans orchestrated an interstellar ballet of control. Fleets moved. Systems calculated. Drones positioned themselves strategically, and ancient technologies integrated seamlessly with human ingenuity. The extraordinary existed in plain sight, cloaked by the ordinary, hidden in the mundane. This return was not conquest. It was reclamation, a demonstration that patience, preparation, and restraint were far more potent than aggression. The galaxy had assumed humanity was extinct, weak, irrelevant. They had misjudged not only the species' capability, but its philosophy. Humanity's true strength lay in its ability to wait, to prepare, and to act with inevitability, wielding technologies older than the stars themselves. By the end of the first week of reemergence, whispers spread across the galaxy. Fleets immobilized. Communication networks rerouted. Sensors overwhelmed by phenomena beyond comprehension. Humans had returned, and even without a single act of violence, They were already reshaping the interstellar order. The galaxy would soon understand the cost of underestimating patience, ingenuity, and the disciplined mastery of knowledge older than the stars themselves. And on Earth, life continued quietly. Children played, scientists experimented, farmers worked. Yet the galaxy would never forget the day humans returned, not with guns or explosions, but with inevitability. The species that had once been dismissed as insignificant was now the measure against which all others would be judged. Humanity had returned, and nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had barely processed the first anomalies when humanity began demonstrating the full measure of their capabilities. Fleets that had once been dominant found themselves paralyzed without apparent cause. Entire star systems, controlled by empires that had arrogantly dismissed humanity as insignificant, experienced unexplained blackouts. Communications networks that spanned light years became inaccessible, rerouted, or scrambled in ways that left seasoned technicians scrambling for answers. It was not chaos. It was precise, calculated control, a display of inevitability. Humanity was showing that the most devastating weapon was not aggression, but knowledge, patience, and technological mastery older than the stars themselves. The Solari Dominion remained the first to confront this reality. Their fleets, vast and meticulously maintained, had once been the pinnacle of military might. Ships bristled with energy cannons, missile arrays, and particle beams capable of obliterating planetary surfaces. Every admiral, every strategist, had trained under doctrines designed to crush entire civilizations. Yet none of it mattered. When the humans' fleet approached, every weapon system failed to function properly. Cannons misfired, missiles detonated mid-flight, energy beams dissipated against barriers that were invisible to sensors. Even attempts to intercept human ships were rendered futile by drives capable of moving with a precision and speed that defied the known laws of physics. From the bridge of the Solaris Prime, Admiral Varen stared in disbelief. Our calculations, every contingency, we prepared for everything. How is this possible? Her officers were equally stunned, their faces pale. The human fleet was not attacking, they were demonstrating power without aggression. Yet, the effect was complete. The Dominion's forces were neutralized without a single shot landing. Entire fleets floated helplessly in space, immobilized, while humans maneuvered with silent precision, like masters guiding pieces on a cosmic chessboard. It wasn't just brute force or weaponized energy, it was control. Human ships coordinated with one another across light years, anticipating every possible movement, every potential strategy. Their AI networks functioned with sentience like adaptability, predicting enemy reactions before they could occur. Temporal calculations bent around the curvature of space itself, allowing humans to maneuver in ways the galaxy considered impossible. And yet, the humans made no aggressive moves. Their demonstration was precise and disciplined. They could have destroyed entire fleets in minutes. Yet they did not. Other civilizations watched in growing apprehension. Across diplomatic networks, reports arrived in fragmented waves, fleets immobilized, colonies untouched yet mysteriously sealed from external observation, energy signatures shifting without explanation. Entire councils of species convened in panic, trying to understand a force that defied comprehension. Humans were not merely returning, they were rewriting the rules of interstellar power. To underestimate them now was no longer just unwise, it was existentially dangerous. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued, as if nothing remarkable had occurred. In the streets of New York, children laughed and played. Scientists calibrated experiments in their laboratories. Farmers harvested crops in vast fields under the morning sun. Markets bustled with ordinary trade. Yet beneath this ordinary existence, humans orchestrated a level of control that spanned the galaxy. Fleets moved silently. Drones patrolled the void. AI networks analyzed potential threats across multiple dimensions of time and space. The extraordinary was invisible to those who had not been watching. The first official human communique to the galaxy came not as a demand or threat, but as an assertion of inevitability. The human message, transmitted through quantum-linked channels, was received simultaneously across dozens of star systems. It was not aggressive. It was declarative. We have returned. We possess knowledge and capability older than the stars. Underestimate us at your peril. Every empire understood immediately that this was not rhetoric. Every fleet, every colony, every council meeting experienced the truth of the humans' return firsthand. In the Dominion's command centers, panic spread. Generals attempted coordinated attacks, deploying every remaining ship in a synchronized assault. Yet every maneuver was anticipated, countered, or neutralized. The humans' technology did not merely react, it anticipated. Systems older than the stars, integrated with human ingenuity, disabled entire armadas without damage, rendering them inert and irrelevant. The Dominion, once confident of its supremacy, now realized that all its preparation was futile. Every fleet, every plan, every assumption had been accounted for and nullified before it could even be executed. The demonstration of power was not limited to fleets. Entire planetary infrastructures were subtly reinforced. Colonies that had been on the brink of collapse experienced sudden surges in energy efficiency, structural stability, and resource distribution. Satellites, long thought inoperative, were suddenly repurposed, integrated seamlessly into human networks. Humans demonstrated mastery, not only of interstellar combat, but of logistics, planetary engineering, and governance, all coordinated from the shadows, executed with invisible precision. Historians and strategists began calling this the silent reclamation. It was unlike any conquest ever recorded. Humanity did not destroy, they neutralized. They did not conquer, they controlled. They did not announce themselves, they asserted inevitability. Entire empires that had once scoffed at Earth were now immobilized, forced to reconsider centuries of arrogance. Humans had returned, and the galaxy was learning, often painfully, that the species they had dismissed as primitive was in fact unstoppable. And yet, humanity's methods were not brute force, they were artistry. Each movement, each recalibration, each silent redirection of energy was executed with precision, foresight, and restraint. Civilians on Earth were oblivious to the cosmic choreography happening above their heads. Children went to school, farmers harvested crops, scientists recorded data, and markets thrived, all while humans orchestrated control of entire star systems, moving unseen, manipulating forces older than the stars themselves, and demonstrating that the greatest power was not aggression but inevitability. By the end of the second week, whispers had spread across the galaxy. Humans had returned with technology older than the stars. Fleets moved with precision beyond comprehension, and empires that had once dismissed them were paralyzed. The galaxy understood a new truth. Humanity did not rush. Humanity did not strike without calculation. Humanity returned with patience as a weapon, foresight as armor and technology as both shield and instrument of inevitable dominance. The message was clear, though unspoken. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. That mistake would cost anyone who repeated it. Fleets immobilized, colonies untouched yet unreachable, communications rerouted beyond comprehension. The silent reclamation had begun, and there would be no reversing its course. Humanity had returned, and the cosmos would never again presume to ignore them. By the third week, the galaxy began to grasp the true scale of humanity's return. The Solari Dominion, which had once prided itself on being an unbeatable force, was now effectively paralyzed. Entire fleets floated motionless in the void, their engines frozen, their weapons disabled, their crews scrambling for answers they could not find. Attempts at coordination failed. Every communication was rerouted or scrambled in ways that defied even the most advanced alien technology. The Dominion's grand strategies, crafted over centuries, were rendered obsolete before they could even be executed. Humanity's patient planning had ensured that no empire could respond effectively. This was not mere chance or luck. Humanity had orchestrated the collapse of established power structures with the precision of a maestro conducting a symphony. Ships were immobilized, yet unharmed. Colonies were protected, yet entirely beyond external control. Energy grids rerouted, defense networks neutralized, and communication channels co-opted, all without firing a single indiscriminate shot. Humans had demonstrated that ultimate power lay not in aggression, but in foresight, understanding, and precise application of knowledge older than the stars themselves. Across the Dominion's command hubs, panic spread like wildfire. Admiral Varen and her officers watched as centuries of planning unraveled in real time. Our fleets, our colonies, every contingency they accounted for, everything, she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Every attempt to regain control failed. Humans anticipated each maneuver before it was even thought of, nullifying strategy and rendering entire sectors impotent. The realization settled heavily. The species they had underestimated for millennia had returned, and they were unstoppable. Meanwhile, humans did not move recklessly. Their actions were deliberate, calculated, and morally tempered. Every neutralization of a fleet was surgical. Every rerouting of communications preserved lives. No civilian casualties, no destruction of infrastructure, only control. Observers from neighboring empires, long accustomed to displays of brute strength, could scarcely comprehend what they were witnessing. The humans did not conquer recklessly. They reclaimed dominance through inevitability, demonstrating a mastery that no other species had ever displayed. Elsewhere, other empires experienced the same phenomenon. The Thalrix Collective, known for its sprawling bureaucracies and massive fleets, found its star systems unexpectedly isolated. Navigation grids failed, fleet commands were scrambled, and planetary defenses became inaccessible. Scientists and engineers attempted to analyze the anomalies, but were confronted by phenomena they could not explain. Ships that appeared and disappeared without violating physical laws, energy fields that neutralized threats before they even materialized, and AI networks capable of predicting entire political maneuvers with uncanny accuracy. Humanity's return was not just a military demonstration, it was a redefinition of strategy and capability across the galaxy. The humans' technology was older than the stars. Ships operated using principles lost to time, harnessing energies from dead stars, manipulating space-time, and integrating ancient AI systems that could simulate centuries of tactical possibilities in an instant. Weapons were precise instruments, capable of neutralizing entire fleets without collateral damage. Shields bent reality itself, rendering even the most advanced energy weapons useless. Humans moved not with haste, but with patience, allowing their enemies to exhaust themselves, to expose weaknesses, and then neutralizing them with flawless execution. Reports from affected systems began to circulate through galactic channels, though most were filtered or dismissed as anomalies. Observers spoke of fleets immobilized mid-battle, colonies untouched yet inaccessible, communication networks rerouted in impossible ways. Analysts who had studied human history assumed the species would act with aggression, but the reality was different. Humans did not attack recklessly. They demonstrated control, dominance, and inevitability without destruction. This strategic patience, combined with ancient technology, was something no other civilization had encountered. Even as the galaxy struggled to comprehend the events, life on Earth continued with quiet normalcy. Children played in parks, unaware that humans were coordinating fleets across light years. Scientists monitored experiments, integrating ancient principles into their designs. Farmers harvested crops, oblivious to the cosmic orchestration taking place above. Humanity's mastery lay not only in technology, but in the ability to operate seamlessly across scales from the individual to the interstellar without revealing the full extent of their capabilities prematurely. By the third week, the impact was undeniable. Entire empires realized that resistance was futile. Fleets that had once been symbols of might were immobilized, bureaucracies were rendered irrelevant, and entire regions of space were now under human control, though without violence. Observers began to whisper. Humans were not merely a species returning, they were the measure against which all others would now be judged. Their patience, foresight, and technological mastery had rewritten the rules of interstellar power. In the Dominion, Admiral Varen convened a final council. Officers argued, suggested strategies, and proposed negotiations, but all were silenced by the evidence of human inevitability. No fleet could engage, no colony could be accessed, and no communication network was reliable. Humanity had not destroyed anything, yet they had demonstrated ultimate control. Varen's final words to her officers were heavy with reluctant admiration. We underestimated them. We dismissed them, and now we cannot fight what we cannot understand. This was the galaxy's awakening. Humans had returned with technology older than the stars, and with patience as their weapon. They had not announced themselves with fireworks or declarations. They had waited, observed, and struck with precision. Fleets immobilized, communication disrupted, colonies protected yet inaccessible. Civilization itself was reminded that power was not in aggression alone, but in knowledge, foresight, and the strategic application of forces older than time. For humanity, this was only the beginning. The galaxy would learn, gradually and painfully, that their return was not a fleeting moment of dominance, but the start of a new era, an era in which humans, patient, calculating, and masterful, would redefine what it meant to be powerful. One species had returned to reclaim its place among the stars, and the universe would never again dismiss Earth. By the fourth week of humanity's re-emergence, the galaxy was no longer confused, it was terrified. The Solari Dominion, once a symbol of military prowess, remained paralyzed. Entire fleets hung in space, engines frozen, weapons inert, their crews desperate for answers that did not exist. The Dominion's command structures had fractured, Admirals argued. Strategists recalculated. Diplomats attempted negotiations, all futile against a species whose patience was as deadly as their technology. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as inevitability incarnate, and the galaxy began to realize the full magnitude of that truth. Humans did not act recklessly. They did not fire indiscriminately or annihilate colonies to make a statement. Instead, every action, every maneuver, every deployment of their fleets was deliberate, precise, and morally tempered. Energy fields capable of neutralizing entire armadas were applied only when necessary. Communication networks were rerouted without disrupting civilian life, and planetary defenses were upgraded silently. Entire star systems were secured not by conquest, but by anticipation, foresight, and technological mastery that no other species could replicate. The Solari Dominion attempted a coordinated counterstrike. For the first time, they concentrated every remaining ship, aiming to overwhelm the human fleet with sheer numbers. But the humans anticipated every possible trajectory. Ships that appeared massive and slow moved with unseen precision. Autonomous drones intercepted missiles mid-flight with microscopic timing. Shields manipulated gravitational fields, bending attacks harmlessly around ships. Human vessels moved like chess pieces, anticipating not just the next move, but every possible sequence of moves for the next century. Every attempt at resistance was met with a combination of restraint and inevitability that left the Dominion helpless. Diplomatic channels across nearby empires began to hum with panic. The Council of Systems, which had long governed interstellar law and trade, scrambled to convene. Ambassadors and leaders argued over what could possibly be done to counter humanity's return. Analysts and strategists attempted simulations, but the results were horrifying. No known combination of fleets, alliances, or technologies could even challenge humans. Their technological integration, derived from relics older than the stars themselves, allowed them to operate across multiple dimensions of space and time simultaneously, predicting outcomes with perfect accuracy. Humanity had transcended conventional warfare entirely. Yet humans did not abuse this advantage. They demonstrated control with elegance. Entire fleets were immobilized, yet undamaged. Colonies were sealed from external threats, but continued normal operations internally. Communication networks were rerouted, not destroyed. It was an artful demonstration. Every action proved that humans could dominate without destruction, neutralize without bloodshed, and exert control without chaos. The galaxy began to realize that true mastery was not about alone. It was about wisdom, patience, and the ability to act with inevitability. Observers noted that humans had perfected a philosophy of restraint intertwined with power. Ordinary life on Earth continued unbroken. Children played in parks, oblivious to the cosmic orchestration above. Scientists in laboratories pushed the boundaries of ancient knowledge. Farmers harvested fields under quiet sunlight. Markets thrived, commerce flowed, and societies functioned normally. Yet every moment, humans were simultaneously coordinating fleets across light years, managing planetary defenses, and controlling technology that predated galaxies themselves. The ordinary and extraordinary coexisted seamlessly. By the fourth week, it became clear that humanity's return was a statement of inevitable dominance. The Solari Dominion, and soon other empires, acknowledged the futility of resistance. Fleets immobilized, colonies secured, communication disrupted yet intact. Humans did not need to destroy to demonstrate control. They needed only to act with precision and foresight. This restraint amplified their power, making the galaxy understand that humans were not just another species, they were an entirely new benchmark of intelligence, strategy, and capability. Historians would later label this period the era of silent mastery. No weapon fired, no city destroyed, yet empires crumbled under the weight of anticipation and inevitability. Humans had reintroduced themselves not with explosions or proclamations, but with a quiet assertion of control, so complete that even the most advanced civilizations could not contest it. Observation posts recorded fleets moving without propulsion, energy fields bending attacks harmlessly, and AI networks neutralizing threats before they could arise. Every action was precise, deliberate, and effective, an interstellar demonstration of what humanity had become. For humans, this was merely the continuation of centuries-long preparation. Their return had been deliberate, their silence strategic. They had allowed empires to grow arrogant, to overextend, to assume that the species they had long dismissed would never rise again. But humans had mastered patience as a weapon. They had integrated knowledge older than the stars with foresight beyond comprehension. And now, in the fourth week of reemergence, the galaxy learned that humans did not merely act, they controlled, anticipated, and executed with perfection. Even as empires scrambled, fleets immobilized, and communication networks faltered, humans continued their silent orchestration. Every planet, every fleet, every system was accounted for. Drones monitored sectors beyond visible light. AI networks calculated outcomes decades in advance. Ships moved as if alive, anticipating needs, threats, and opportunities. Humanity had returned, but not to conquer recklessly. They had returned to reclaim their place with inevitability, demonstrating that true mastery lies not in raw force, but in knowledge, patience, and precision. By the end of the fourth week, the galaxy whispered a single unified truth: underestimate humans at your peril. The Council of Systems convened. Fleets paused mid-mission, and empires recalculated centuries of arrogance. Humanity had demonstrated a mastery that could not be challenged directly, and every observer understood that the return of Earth's species marked a turning point in galactic history. One species, dismissed for millennia, had returned with technology older than the stars and a patience that made resistance irrelevant. The universe had learned that the most dangerous force was not violence, it was inevitability, precision, and the unwavering execution of knowledge beyond comprehension. And on Earth, life remained ordinary. Children played. Scientists experimented. Farmers harvested. Markets thrived. The extraordinary had returned, but cloaked in normalcy, preparing to assert ultimate control, not through destruction, but through calculated inevitability. The galaxy had finally understood what the humans had known for centuries: patience, foresight, and knowledge, older than the stars, were the deadliest weapons of all. By the fifth week, the galaxy had fully absorbed the reality of humanity's return. The Solari Dominion, once feared across sectors, now sat immobilized in space, its fleets inert, its command structures fractured, and its pride irrevocably shattered. The Thalrix Collective, the Alari Consortium, and countless smaller empires scrambled desperately, attempting to coordinate responses to a species they had long underestimated, only to discover that resistance was not just futile, it was meaningless. Humans had returned not merely as conquerors, but as arbiters of inevitability, wielding technology and insight older than the stars themselves. Human fleets now moved openly, but not aggressively. They positioned themselves strategically across systems once thought secure by the galaxy's empires. Colonies long neglected or considered insignificant were integrated into a vast network of observation and control. Humans established silent patrols, invisible to conventional detection methods, ensuring that no aggressive action could succeed without being anticipated and neutralized. Yet, no unnecessary harm came to life, to industry, or to infrastructure. Their power was absolute, but exercised with a restraint that confounded the galaxy's traditional understanding of dominance. The Council of Systems convened in emergency session. Leaders, ambassadors, and representatives gathered virtually from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, their debates frantic, their voices tinged with fear. "How do we respond?" asked High Chancellor Valen of the Alari. "We cannot fight them. Our fleets are paralyzed. Our colonies are inaccessible, and their reach is everywhere." Analysts projected timelines, calculated odds, and simulated engagements. Every model concluded the same terrifying truth: humanity could not be defeated by conventional means. Every fleet, every alliance, every technological strategy failed against the combined force of human patience, foresight, and ancient power. And yet, humans did not act as conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not demand tribute, enforce occupation, or destroy infrastructure. Instead, they established a network of interstellar equilibrium, ensuring that no empire could threaten another. Human technology facilitated instantaneous communication, safe navigation, and energy distribution across previously unstable systems. Humans demonstrated control, not by coercion, but by creating conditions where aggressive action was unnecessary and impossible. The galaxy began to understand that this was not domination for its own sake. It was a redefinition of order. In one of the most remarkable demonstrations, the Solari Dominion attempted to negotiate. Ambassador Kalen, a seasoned diplomat, approached human representatives with trepidation. The humans, however, did not respond with threats. They provided insight, revealed capabilities, and offered solutions to energy crises, fleet coordination, and territorial disputes. It became clear that humanity's return was not about punishment, but about correction, realigning a galaxy that had grown arrogant, complacent, and overconfident. Through technology and foresight, humans enforced stability, but with a moral compass that surpassed that of any other species. Across the galaxy, historians began documenting the era as the Silent Reclamation, a period in which humanity returned not with wars or devastation, but with an assertion of inevitability. The universe learned that the most dangerous force was not aggression, but patience and knowledge applied with precision. Humans had proven that technology older than the stars, combined with foresight, restraint, and strategic patience, could achieve more than any fleet, army, or weapon ever could. Entire civilizations were humbled, not by destruction, but by revelation, by understanding that they had misjudged humanity for millennia. The psychological impact was as profound as the technological. Leaders across empires now understood that arrogance toward humanity had been fatal. Every historian, every philosopher, every military strategist began re-evaluating their understanding of power, patience, and intelligence. The human species had returned not to conquer recklessly, but to demonstrate that true supremacy lay in preparation, calculation, and moral restraint. Fleets were immobilized, colonies were secure, yet untouched, communication networks spanned the galaxy, integrating knowledge and coordination that no other species could rival. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human population continued life as usual. Children played in parks, scientists refined experiments, farmers harvested fields, and markets thrived. Yet, every human was part of a vast, coordinated effort spanning the galaxy. Ancient technologies were harnessed. AI networks operated with sentience, like understanding, and fleets moved silently across star systems. The extraordinary and the ordinary coexisted seamlessly, a testament to the species' mastery of both the mundane and the cosmic scale. Humanity had returned, and yet it remained human, patient, and restrained. The final week of the initial phase of human reclamation saw humanity reach a point of undeniable authority. Every empire had witnessed fleets immobilized, without destruction, colonies secured without violence, and communication networks rerouted without interference. Humans had demonstrated that power did not require aggression. Control could be achieved through understanding, preparation, and inevitability. The message to the galaxy was clear: underestimate humans, and the consequences are not just defeat, they are irrelevance. Galactic historians would later describe this period as the point where human civilization transcended all known paradigms. Technology older than the stars, applied with patience and foresight, had rewritten the rules of engagement. Civilizations that had once mocked or ignored Earth now understood that humans were not to be underestimated. The galaxy learned a lesson in humility, patience, and respect, an understanding that would shape interstellar diplomacy, strategy, and philosophy for centuries to come. Humanity had returned with a calm, deliberate power, demonstrating that true supremacy is not measured by destruction, but by the ability to act with inevitability. The galaxy now knew that Earth was no longer a backwater planet, no longer insignificant. Humans had reclaimed their place not with chaos or fire, but with knowledge, patience, and restraint. They had returned to the stars, and in doing so had taught the universe an immutable lesson. The most formidable force is not the one that strikes first, but the one that waits, calculates, and acts with perfect certainty. By the end of the 5th week, the galaxy was silent, not in fear of attack, but in awe of what had occurred. Fleets were controlled, colonies stabilized, empires humbled. Humanity had returned, and in their quiet mastery, they had forever changed the understanding of power, technology, and patience. The universe had learned that the most dangerous species was not the one that boasted the loudest, fired the fastest, or conquered the most, but the one that prepared, waited, and acted with the knowledge older than the stars themselves. The lesson was simple, yet profound. Patience, intelligence, and restraint, applied with perfect timing and ancient wisdom, were more powerful than fleets, weapons, or alliances. Humanity had returned, not as a conqueror, but as the measure by which all others would now be judged. And the galaxy, humbled and transformed, would never again underestimate Earth.